afternoon. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners meeting, our final meeting of the year for Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. It is 1. By habit, we usually start at 2. It's 1:02 p.m. My name is Ty Mentor, Chair of the Board. To my right is Vice Chair Commissioner Wayne Fortner, Commissioner Carolina Mejia. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards and Commissioner Emily Klaus. County Manager Leonard Hernandez, Assistant County Managers Robin Campbell and Rob Gelder. And we have a slightly different structure today as we're including our swearing-in ceremony as part of today's meeting. But we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards. Please join us.
Please join me in the pledge to this great country. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Proceed with the land acknowledgement, Vice Chair. We would also like to start today with the land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge and thank the indigenous Salish peoples whose elders and ancestors have lived on and cared for the land and waterways of this county since time immemorial, and who still inhabit the area today. Specifically, the Squaxin Island, Nisqually, and Chehalis people, our sovereign tribal partners. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. The purpose of this acknowledgement is to disrupt ongoing erasure of injustices done and to remember history as a stepping stone towards healing. Sir. And finally, preliminary matter, we need to approve the agenda for today's meeting. So I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion to approve today's proposed agenda. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have an agenda. So next up is our swearing-in ceremony. And at this point, we have Judge Chris Lanise, who from the Superior Court, and I'd like to call him forward to the podium. He is going to preside over our three different sort of separate proceedings. And Judge Lanise, thank you so much for being part of this, and I'll turn the floor to you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mentor. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for inviting me to have the honor and privilege of swearing in the re-elected and newly elected commissioners for Thurston County Board of County Commissioners. Without further ado, I want to just thank you for being here and invite Commissioner Mejia down to swear her in again at this time.
Could you award me this moment of privilege to invite my family up here to do
Please
it with
do.
me, my girls?
No mother-in-laws.
You guys all ready? So Mom, can you raise your right hand, please? I, Carolina Mejia,
I, Carolina Mejia,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the State of Washington,
of the State of Washington,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
perform and discharge
perform and discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Thurston County Commissioner District Number 1
of Thurston County Commissioner District Number 1
according to law,
according to law,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my abilities.
You are now sworn in. Congratulations. She's now signing the oath. Then I sign to confirm. And there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, you have the floor.
You get it.
There's a picture.
Yeah,
You get it.
get a picture with the
Friends
Judge?
and family, so my family. can
anyone else you
come up
like.
here. My parents. Sister, come on.
I don't want to be behind. Yeah. All right. order of district number. So we have our District 2 Commissioner to be sworn in. Back to you, Judge.
Thank you. So Commissioner-elect Rachel Grant can come on up at this time. So you can invite anyone up if you want to have someone with you at this time. So now you'll raise your right hand. I, Rachel Grant,
I, Rachel Grant,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
and laws of the state of Washington,
and laws of the state of Washington,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
perform and discharge
perform and discharge
the duties of the office of
the
Thurston County Commissioner,
Thurston County Commissioner,
District Number 2,
District Number 2,
according to law,
according to law,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So congratulations, you're now sworn in.
My glasses. Okay.
That line, trust me.
Okay.
It's right there. Perfect. Oh, force of habit. It works.
That's it, Rachel.
I
You're
haven't
if you
signed Grant yet.
welcome.
There you go.
Oh, come up too. So, yeah, yeah, it's okay. Here, you hand that to someone else. Robbie, you too. My kids could not be here today. It was all or nothing. These are. This is my family. Yeah. I love you guys. Thank you for coming.
We love you, Rachel. Okay. Next up. Commissioner Warnier. District.
You're the last one, so congratulations.
You want to come up to me now? He's actually going to marry us right now.
Raise your right hand, please. I, Wayne Fournier,
I, Wayne Fournier,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
and laws of the state of
and
Washington,
laws of the state of Washington,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
perform and discharge
perform and discharge
the duties of the office of
the duties of the office of
Thurston County Commissioner,
Thurston County Commissioner,
District Number 4,
District Number 4,
according to law,
according to law
to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
You're re-sworn in.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's my turn. So you are now sworn in. Congratulations. You can have your picture opportunity there.
Wearing heels. All right, we would like to thank Judge Denise, all attendees for being here for this portion of the meeting. It's a very exciting prospect. We look forward to our new board in 2025. Saying goodbye to Commissioner Edwards, who has served 7 terms as a county official and 2 terms on the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners. And I don't know what life's like without you, Gary. So it'll be more pleasant, I'm sure. I don't know. We'll find out in January. So that's really, yeah. Let's give it a round of applause. We'll be doing that formally at 4 p.m. Here in the atrium. But at this juncture, I'm going to pass to the county manager for a few words. I know we have the business meeting's picking up at 2 p.m., so we have a little bit of time between now and then for a short reception outside for the folks who are here and the new commissioner-elects, but county manager.
Well, we just want to say congratulations to our newly elected commissioner and our re-elected commissioners. Thank you, friends and family, for being here. The team has worked to have some light refreshments outside, so we'd like for you to join us as we celebrate their swearing in today.
So the meeting will be in recess until 2 p.m. Right, it is 2:02 PM. We are back from a recess after our swearing-in ceremonies, part of our agenda this afternoon. Next up on our agenda is opportunities for the public to address the board. And Board of County Commissioners welcomes comments from the public. We have some guidelines governing such comments to ensure they are appropriate. So when you are introduced, please introduce yourself, including the area of the county in which you reside. Address the board, not audience or staff. Silence your cell phones. Speakers are limited to a total of 4 minutes to address the board, and none of that time can be donated to other speakers. The board reserves the right to restrict a person's opportunity for good cause. No comments that are lewd, offensive, inflammatory, hateful, defamatory, or discriminatory in nature. Please be respectful. No outbursts of any kind. Comments that are commercial in nature, such as promotion of a for-profit business, or remarks about pending land use permits, or similar matters that could eventually come before the board on appeal. Finally, all written material provided to the county may be considered public record and subject to public release upon request pursuant to the Public Records Act, Chapter 4256 of Revised Code of Washington. So with that, we will go to the sign-up sheet. I have John Pettit first, Arthur West on deck, and then we'll call for any other folks who didn't get a chance to sign up.
No, I'm not giving you all these documents. My name is John Pettit. I live off of Rich Road in East Olympia. You know, one of the things which those of you who've been around knows that I'm usually very active about watching, particularly the budget, one of the largest important things that the commissioners do. And giving some idea, one of the things which I'm just bringing out as a point is I have a letter here actually from 2015 because I used to end up actually taking the documents, going through and even helping review. I mean, one of the things, thanks for agreeing to review this draft of the final adopted Thurston County 2015 budget. And there are many documents. If there's any documents, let them know. Let me know if you have any questions. My number is such and such. But the whole point is I always find different things that can be corrected. Well, today, and mind you, just to let you know, the name signed on the bottom of this letter is Robin Campbell. So, and she's retiring now. What I'm referring to today is going to be brief, and I'm frustrated. And what I'm frustrated about is the fact that essentially, I believe you're going to be approving a lot of documents that you have not read or have been changed since the last time that you may have looked at them. And so you're going to vote to approve things that you don't actually know what they say. Don't worry, they'll let you read it after you approve it. Or you could take a significant step and say, you know what? It might mess up my trip to Hawaii or Fiji or wherever you might be going over the next couple of weeks. And you could possibly schedule another meeting after you had time to review the 627 pages that I was just able to get a hold of a couple hours ago, either online and then just now in person. So if you want to approve things that you haven't actually read, that's your discretion, I guess. But I actually think it would be better to say, if I haven't read it, I need to thoroughly make sure whatever I'm agreeing to or adopting before I do it. So I would encourage actually either A, voting no on all of it that you don't know about, or B, just understand that with time, when I see something come up, then I may bring it up. One of the things I didn't find in my very, very quick look and review is I didn't find anything there actually about appropriate expenditure for a proposed sheriff building. Now, if it's not in there, then I guess you're not going to do it because that's the budget. So if it's not in the capital facility plan, it's not going to happen, right? And we do know that's a little bit of an issue because in that program, there was a designation about, is this a building or is this a piece of land? Well, it's clearly a building. And there's a process under the comprehensive plan, which is really something that you are processing under state guidelines. approved through Department of Commerce and such, but state guidelines. So I encourage you, take a good look. I'm not condemning you for wanting to get it done, wrap up your year, but I am suggesting if you haven't read it, then you shouldn't be adopting it. Thank you.
Mr. Pettit, Arthur West is next.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name's Arthur West. I live on Berry Street, and I also have property out by the Evergreen State College. I'm here to talk to you about a few things today. First off, the Public Records Act. Now, I've spoken to you on that before. Last week, the county released a report, but it didn't actually release a report. It released a document 36 pages long that has more redactions than words on it. And in response to a records request, the county did not release the record or produce the unredacted version. It said it needed another month and a half to decide whether the redactions were correct. That's not a correct response. And I think that's trying to game the system. If the county's going to withhold records, it should do so boldly and without any caveats. And if it's going to withhold records, it should do so too. And again, my other problem is this: it's a lot of work to go through a municipality or quasi-municipal agency and when under the Public Records Act. And we're still not done negotiating the last time you guys withheld records of an investigation. In fact, I have a handout today that has the last communications that my settlement attorney has had with your attorneys, and they apparently have been rude to them and haven't been getting back to them. So I hope we could address that. And I don't necessarily need to make any money off of this, but that's the way it goes. Is, municipalities, when they lose, we usually negotiate. The Adams County, Ohio sheriff and prosecutor negotiated a settlement to the Public Records Act case that I brought for the records of their kicking down Afro-Man's gate and door that they withheld. So, if the agency that kicked down my homie's door and stole his lemon pound cake can settle, Thurston County ought to be able to settle too. Again, I'd also like to talk about some statements the county's made about how limited its powers are to remove a commissioner. I'd like to draw the attention to the handout I provided, RCW 42-23030, which talks about interest in contracts prohibited, exceptions. No municipal officer shall be beneficially interested or directly or indirectly in any contract which may be made through or under their supervision of such officer. Then if you look at the next section, 050, it says that prohibited contracts are void, and significantly, as the county's getting sued for $750,000 under one of these contracts that I think is arguably within this scope of this statute, and the performance thereof, in full or part, by a contracting party, shall not be the basis of any claim against the municipality. So that would throw out that entire $750,000 claim. And it, again, in addition to other penalties, civil or criminal, violation by any officer of the provisions of this chapter may be grounds for forfeiture of their office. So the county does have the authority under certain circumstances to get rid of county commissioners if they act egregiously. And the county also has the authority to bring a clean hands defense against this person that's trying to sue the county for a contract that probably was not properly issued to begin with. So thank you very much, and I hope these issues have been resolved here today. Thank you.
Ask the clerk something. Go ahead. Clerk, did Mr. West leave some paperwork for us?
Today,
No?
I don't have.
I dropped off some papers right there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, anyone else in the boardroom who did not sign up but would like to provide public comment? Mr. Halverson? Okay, you're up.
Chair, Commissioners, my name is Barry Halverson. I live in Yelm, Washington. I would like today to congratulate the new commissioners that were just reelected, Commissioner Mejia, Commissioner Fournier. and the commissioner that was newly elected, Commissioner Grant, for their success in the election this past November. I'd also like to acknowledge and give my thanks to Commissioner Gary Edwards. I'm a District 2 resident. Commissioner Edwards has represented District 2 for the last 8 years as a commissioner and has represented the county previous to that for, I believe, about 29 years as a county sheriff and as a deputy sheriff. And since he lives in my community, I really wanted to formally recognize that because I probably won't get that opportunity at your retirement ceremony at 4 o'clock, but I wanted to make it public. I'd also like to thank today Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell and Assistant County Manager Robert Gelder. Mrs. Campbell will be retiring here, I believe tomorrow. I just talked to her before this meeting. And Mrs. Campbell and I have had a lot of interaction over the last 8 or 10 years, going up to her office and sitting down and getting me educated on several things to include interfund costs. And I mentioned that to Mrs. Campbell during the intermission that you had. And I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that she is just an outstanding employee of this county and a wonderful person. And I just wanted to acknowledge that publicly. I also want to thank Mr. Gelder, Robert Gelder, your Assistant County Manager, who I've had the opportunity to work very closely with over the last year and a half. And to let the county commissioners know that due to his personal efforts with the lake management districts over the last year and a half, you have not seen me and Doug Carmen getting on your schedule to come and talk to you up in your room for the last year and a half. And you have not seen us coming here and testifying every Tuesday about a problem that we've got. And that is due in testament to Mr. Gelder's personal attention to this matter and making sure that things were taken care of on your behalf. So thank you both for your service to our county, and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry. Anyone else? Okay, let's go to Zoom. If there's anyone on Zoom who's not staff or is staff and would like to provide public comment. Gary Eidelberg. Steven Seagal is the next one.
Yeah, I have no comment, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I know the rest are staff members, I think. Lorraine James.
Yes, I'm here. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to say this, but are you taking comments on the Wilmofsky project at this time?
Yes, ma'am. Anything you want to give comment about?
All right. So I'd just like to say that any expansion that needs to be done, you need to meet the standards of the new law that was passed in March of this year, 2024, and went into effect of June 2024. And this proposed high density expansion, it fails to meet these new standards. The Board of County Commissioners is acting on the UGM subcommittee review where they acknowledged there is enough buildable land in the UGA to meet 20-year projections. The Board of County Commissioners, you're required to follow the current law. There is no need to expand the boundary to accommodate this inappropriate high-density project of the size in this area. And I got to tell you, it just feels very rushed, and we wouldn't want to have something like this so huge just be pushed through. We're not seeing any response from I'm sorry, Mr. Fournier, but we're not really seeing any response from you that I'm aware of. And all of you are more than welcome to come down here and have a little look at what goes on. If you came down here and saw the traffic that's going on during the week with 3 schools that are coming into that area, it's just incredible. There's 3 schools, there's the train, And that's without one additional house being put in. The other night there was a program at the school. The school is so crowded that due to regulations, there wasn't enough room for all the parents to come in and watch their children at the Christmas program because it was so crowded. That's how crowded the school was. So parents were left out, not being able to see this because that school cannot handle it. So again, I'm just really concerned that this feels like, let's get it through. And bottom line is, you need to follow that new law that was put in June. Thank you.
Thank you. I will double back to, who's in the upper left corner? I can't read that name. NG Pinehurst?
Benji Reinhardt with WashDOT.
Did you wish to provide public comment, Mr. Reinhardt? Okay, I'll go back to Gary Eidelberg.
No comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Jane Burkhart. Cameron Penn. You came off mute and then back onto mute, Mr. Penn.
Okay, sorry.
Just happened again.
Okay, is that working?
Yeah, you have 4 minutes if
Okay.
you'd like to give comment.
Okay, sorry, this is the first time I've done this, but yeah, I also would like to comment on the Wilmovsky project. I also live on 201st. I don't know if any of you guys have been down there in the last couple of weeks, especially. There's a lot of graffiti that's gone on lately on a lot of people's property down there. From the already, multiple subdivisions that have been put in there. Lots of high traffic already going on with not a whole lot of lighting on the street and only partially sidewalk. It gets dangerous. I've almost, people walking around out there with their dogs and stuff, I've almost not even seen them myself. So I just want to put that in there and let you guys know that a lot of the people around there are not really interested in that many more houses going in. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Jan Nielsen. And what's listed as Monty.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Jan Nielsen, go ahead. You have 4 minutes.
Hi. Thank you so much for the time. I live farther down Sargent Road towards 183rd, and we're seeing such an uptick in traffic incidents at 183rd and Sargent. I frequently travel through the roundabout and up back behind the distillery and through that area, and it's just not set up for more traffic. I'll echo other people's responses where we don't have enough areas for schools. It's certainly not set up for any type of traffic through there. It's such a large number of residences going in and so many people. I also feel that it's premature to be looking at doing these types of subdivisions when we don't have infrastructure. So it would really be a concern to bring in all these homes with no way to move people around, no way to widen streets, put in sidewalks. We already have, issues with people walking along the street. We've got that going down Sargent. There's always people walking down the street. There's no lighting down there. I'm surprised more people aren't hit by cars. So bringing in so many more people into this area, while I don't want to be the not in my backyard, let's not in my backyard until we really have infrastructure put in place before we go forth with providing more of everything with nothing to support it.
Okay, thank you. Monty?
No comment.
No comment, thank you. Okay, I think that covers the online folks. So thank you for public comment. We'll move on to county manager's update, item 2.
Report at this time.
Okay. We have consent items 3A through 3L. Is there a request from a commissioner to remove an item from consent agenda?
I believe I have a request, item I, regarding the resolution extending the recruitment incentives for lateral deputy sheriffs and corrections deputies. And I think I saw the sheriff online, and I believe he's prepared to move this item to department based on this morning's conversation.
He has an item in the first section, so we can just slide that to the sheriff department, part of the agenda. Any other requests from commissioners? Okay, then I would ask for a motion to approve consent items 3A through L with the exception of item I.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second to approve consent items 3A through 3L without 3I. And non-debatable motion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So that'll bring us right to item 4 under the sheriff's department. Let's just start with item 3. That's 3I on the agenda, which is under HR. It connects to the sheriff's department. Resolution extending the recruitment incentives program for lateral deputy sheriffs and corrections deputies. And Tara Wickline, why don't you, I know we have Sheriff Sanders too, but why don't you start with an overview of the item?
Thank you, Commissioners. Tara Wickline, Compensation and Benefits Manager. The resolutions before you extend the pilot programs for hiring incentives for lateral applicants for both Deputy Sheriff and Corrections Deputies. This extends both programs through June of 2025 with the proviso that the corrections incentive program is also limited to a total of 10 lateral hires. Are there any questions? I believe the sheriff is here also.
Before we go to questions, let me ask the Sheriff Sanders, thank you for joining us. Did you have some back information for the public?
I would just say that without going into too much detail, the program has been wildly successful. I've sent each of you a document. From 2021 to 2024, the Sheriff's Office hired 0 lateral deputy sheriffs, which was a pretty big red flag to me, large enough that it convinced me to run for office. So this was a big piece of what I wanted to accomplish here. Since the incentive program went live, we have had, it looks like more than 50 applicants have actually applied, and we've hired 14 of them. So we went from hiring 0 lateral deputies for 3 years to hiring 14 in 3 months. And we currently still have, I believe we just had 3 more apply last night. So the program is wildly successful. And the easiest way to put it in terms of the public is that when you compare the cost comparisons between an entry level and a lateral deputy sheriff, it's about $63,000 more expensive to hire a brand new deputy in a 12-month rolling period. So if you multiply 14 times the 63,000 minus the lateral bonus, which is 25,000, that leaves you with about a little over $500,000 in savings throughout a 12-month rolling period. And the overtime has been killing this agency for the last forever. And just recently, in our most recent pay period, our overtime dropped by about 60%. So the work is paying off. It's a testament to people who are staying with the agency. It's a testament to people who are coming here, and it's a testament to our background unit for getting the hiring done.
Questions for Tara or the sheriff?
I don't have questions necessarily. I would really love to have a work session or even maybe an e-brief on the benefits that the sheriff has shared with us today and in the email that we received earlier today. This item was new on the agenda today. I didn't see it on the agenda last week, so I'm still digesting all of that information. I want to say I appreciate the effort that has gone into this program and the cost savings that the county has seen from the program. I just like to have a little bit more time to digest, financial documents. So I appreciate those documents coming over to us earlier today. And I would maybe request that we consider a work session on this in the near future.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I move to approve 2 resolutions extending the pilot recruitment incentives program for the purpose of attracting and hiring 1, lateral deputy sheriffs, and 2, corrections deputies for Thurston County Sheriff's Office.
Second. Motion and second to approve 2 resolutions regarding pilot incentive programs. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next up is 4A on the agenda, also from the Sheriff's Department, single source purchase grappler system. And we're sticking with you, Sheriff Sanders.
Yep. And thank you, Tara. Sorry, I didn't get to say thank you to you as well. So this is for the grappler unit. We've already given a pretty extensive debrief on what the grappler is and why we went about purchasing them. This is simply for a sole source approval. County policy requires that even though we've already been awarded the funding and we've been given the budget authority, each time we have to come back before the board to purchase a specific set number of sole source items. So this is just to go back again and say, hey, we want to finish out the order for the grappler devices. And we are in the process of securing 1 final grant for this. So we will be back before you guys again to get final authorization for 2 more.
Questions for the sheriff on this item 4A? Nope, I'm ready for a motion.
Move to approve the single source purchase of 17 grappler units and associated equipment from Stock Enterprises LLC for the amount of $109,343.48 and authorize the sheriff or his designee to execute the contract and any amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second. Motion and second to approve the single source purchase. Any discussion on that motion?
I have a discussion point.
ahead,
I
Commissioner
wanted to
Klaus.
highlight that one point the sheriff brought up during a briefing on this item was that the cost for the grappler systems have actually gone down. Am I right to say that, Sheriff? Since
That's
this
correct.
first started? Yeah, I wanted to highlight that because I do appreciate the cost savings and the fact that your office has gone out to try to find external funding sources so that this doesn't impact the general fund. That's one of, my biggest concerns when it comes to requests, is like how they will impact the general fund. So I just wanted to highlight that you've helped bring the cost down on that. And, yeah, I know that a lot of work has gone into this. So thanks for securing external funding.
Yep, absolutely. And that was we've gotten external funding from a couple different sources now, both of them being, 3 being different types of grants and reimbursement programs. And the reason the cost went down is because we bought so many of these from Grappler that they're actually going to train our county shop staff and some of our deputies on how to install and train them internally. So we no longer have to pay the vendor fee, which is a huge deal. And the county could even see revenue sources come in as additional agencies are getting more interested in these devices specifically. And as far as I know, we will be the only agency in the state that is certified to train and install them.
Okay, if there's no further discussion,
Sorry, I have one more
Oh,
thing.
yeah,
I know we have a
absolutely.
big agenda. I wanted to say thank you to the sheriff for always getting me the information I need on this. I've asked for the policy on the grappler system, and that was sent, I want to say within a matter of a couple hours, because I have a lot of constituents asking me if I've seen the policies related to these different pieces of technology or devices that the sheriff is bringing in. I have a lot of people ask me about that, and so I'm able to say, yeah, I've seen the policy. And I feel like that's a level of transparency that the community deserves. So I just wanted to say thanks to the sheriff and your staff for getting me those documents when I request them in a timely manner.
Absolutely. Not a problem whatsoever. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Sheriff Sanders. We'll go on
Thank
to
you.
item Central Services 5A. Contract award to Axon for body cameras, vehicle cameras, and tasers. Bruce Rohrbaugh, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Bruce Rohrbaugh, Interim Central Services Director. This is a request for the county to enter into a contract with Axon Enterprise in the amount of $4,911,044.95 over the next 10 years for 100 body and vehicle cameras, 100 tasers, and services. Our contract with Axon is based on a contract competitively bid by the Sourcewell Co-op. On 28 October, the Sheriff, IT, Central Services, and Risk came before the board to provide information on the limitations of the current camera system and to make a recommendation to move to Axon for camera hardware and service. The replacement of the cameras will address ongoing issues with reliability and data management currently being experienced. The next step was to bring a contract before the board for consideration once funding was identified. Central Services, Information Technology, the Sheriff's Office, and the budget team have developed the funding plan and incorporated it for your consideration in the 2025 budget. Initial funding of $1.49 million for the upfront cost will come from funds already collected through rates for this equipment in the ER&R reserves. This expenditure is in the ER&R budget for 2025, and the cameras and tasers are on the 2025 equipment list in the ER&R resolution. Ongoing maintenance costs for the services will be $379,000 per year starting in 2026 and will be collected from the Sheriff's Office and IT rates. The IT department will submit a budget change request for 2026 to cover the increase in IT costs, which will then be collected through the internal service costs to the Sheriff's Office. I'm available to answer any questions.
Questions for Bruce?
I did have a constituent question on the tasers. I had someone reach out to me asking about the difference between the new Axon tasers versus the ones that are currently being used. Is the sheriff still online, or can someone?
So we know one thing, it syncs with the cameras.
Yeah, we went over this a couple weeks ago. They reach out further. They have like 11 shots instead of one shot. So with the current tasers, you'll shoot it, and if you miss, you have to remove that, and then you have to go in and touch the person with the taser, and that can be extremely dangerous. It also doesn't link up with the camera system. So with the new ones, when you take it out of the holster, it'll start recording everything that happens, and they're a better design, safer design.
Thank you. I appreciate you being able to speak to that.
I would say that the motivating factor was less about like the bells and whistles. I mean, that's a nice benefit, but the motivator for this was the fact that the ability to manage the data created, like the software systems and and we're just so totally inferior to or superior to what we had used earlier and not as compatible with the different agencies that need to use the data. So it was a very practically motivated purchase. It just so happens that it's a better product all around and has a lot of more features, but I just want to make it clear that that wasn't really the motivating factor, was that the previous system wasn't working very well at all.
Sure. Data management and incorporated in the courts data management as well with the PAO and the courts.
Yeah, and I would just would add that staff did a great job of negotiating just an overall better deal prospect, because in addition to the service, there's also automatic equipment upgrades that otherwise outside of this construct of the deal and the agreement, the county would be on the hook to go and pay for those hardware separately.
This program, instead of owning these tasers, we get into a lease program where we can have rolling upgrades and updates. And I think the sheriff probably will be joining us if he's in the lobby
I'm
or
here.
something.
Sorry.
Oh, there he is.
I would like to clarify that it is a purchase, but it does incorporate those upgrades as you mentioned. Yes.
Sheriff, you had there was a question from Commissioner Klaus about how they work, how the tasers in particular work differently than the previous tasers you've used.
Well, the tasers that we currently have are the X26 model. Sorry, I got coughing kids next to me. That's the Taser 26 model. They're extremely outdated. I think we're 3 models behind. And the reason for that is that we had them and they worked okay, and we just haven't updated them for a couple of years. So we've been saving money up through the ER&R program. The biggest difference is that the current taser is a one-shot, one-chance taser. So you get into an environment, you attempt to taser someone who's fighting, they have a jacket on or something like thick clothing that doesn't allow the probes to get through. Your taser is obsolete at that point. It doesn't work anymore. It's done. You only had one shot. With the Taser 10, the name being in the number, it actually has 10 separate darts that you can fire off. So the 2 biggest differences is that the Taser 10 has 9 opportunities technically to get good connection and cause lockup, so we can take people into custody, whereas the tasers we currently have 1 chance to get lockup. And the second piece is the standoff distance. Our current tasers, I believe, have a total range of like just over 20 feet, but you're lucky at 20 feet. I can tell you right now, Getting a taser shot at 20 feet with one of these tasers, it's a realistic standoff distance for these is probably closer to 5 to 10 feet. And even then you're kind of guessing with the aim because again, you only get one shot and both probes come off at the same time. With the Taser 10, it's accurate up to 45 feet.
Will the use of these tasers be reflected on your use of force dashboard on the website?
Yeah, the use of force dashboard captures taser application, so that won't change. It'll still show that someone had a taser used on them, just like this taser does.
Okay, and is that data captured immediately, or is there a lag between the time it's used? I mean, how long is that gap between the time it's used?
It's a new thing. We just got the 2023 piece up, so we're still in the process of trying to find ways to use, I believe it's Power BI, to import the data as it goes. But at this point in time, what we have up right now is 2023 data, and then on January 1st, the crime analyst is going to come in. January 2nd, January 1 is a holiday. Is going to come in and start compiling data from 2024 and upload all of that data as well. And so it's all going to show under the same. We haven't changed the categories, right, between like use of force measures of taser, non-compliant handcuffing, physical control measures, kicks, strikes, those kinds of things are all still categorized out.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right, I'm ready for motion.
I move to approve a cooperating purchase contract with Axon for body cameras, vehicle cameras, and tasers for the amount of $4,911,044.95 over 10 years, and authorize the interim director of central services to execute the contract and any amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second. Motion and second to approve this contract for body cameras, vehicle cameras, and tasers. Any discussion on the motion?
I'll just add that this has been a long time coming, that we had our first experience with body cameras, and unfortunately, they were not what we were expecting. There was concerns with the data management that the prosecutor as well as public defense handled. And there was a lot of work that went on internally for this with the sheriff's office, central services, IT, the prosecutor's office, public defense, to be sure that we were all aligned. This is also a program that other jurisdictions already have as well, so we are catching up to that point.
I'd say that I appreciate the sheriff's department and kind of being progressive in how they handle these things. The grappler system is a pursuit alternative technology that I believe increases public safety and officer safety. With the tasers, we're excited about the data management improvements, but with these, when we're using the antiquated tasers and we're moving on to a taser that has 9 extra opportunities to not have to go hands-on with somebody when they're being put into custody, that increases officer safety, it increases public safety. So I appreciate that effort as well.
I'll just add on, since we have worked really a long time on this, and what I'm thinking about we're focused on the law enforcement in the field, but on the back end, I was a former public defender, so I can understand the prosecutor's office and the public defense and what they've described as like the simplicity of redactions. I mean, that alone is, as we have exponentially more digital evidence in our criminal cases, the prosecutor's ability to efficiently and effectively do redaction so that the visual evidence can be quickly transferred to the other side so that cases don't get delayed because of discovery hang-ups. It increases administration of justice. It saves the county money on both prosecutor and defense commissioners.
Yeah. I also did a ride-along with the sheriff several months back and saw how terrible the current system is and how easy it would be for a deputy to not bring their body cam simply because it's dead, or they have to constantly charge it while they're driving around and then remember to grab it. And if there's an emergency that arises, we can't expect our deputies to, do that perfectly. So this new technology will allow them to perform their job and allow for that additional layer of transparency. So.
Okay, with all that, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to item 6. This is Commissioner's Office, and we have 13 separate resolutions that relate to various pieces of the 2025 midterm budget. And I know there's different presenters, so I'm going to kind of let Summer, and if you could sort of direct traffic during these different pieces, and we'll go through them one by one.
Summer Miller, Budget Finance Manager, thank you. And Ashley from CPED is going to speak about the adoption of the resolution for the capital improvement plan.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ashley Rye, Director of Community Planning, Economic Development, here to speak on the first of the 13 resolutions for the Capital Improvement Program. This is an annual action to repeal and replace the existing CIP with the 2025-2030 Capital Improvement Program. The CIP is a 6-year financial plan for capital projects needed to maintain important infrastructure and levels of service as the community grows. Although it is not a budget, it's a plan for future action, but what you will see are projects included for the 2024-2025 timeframe aligned with that capital budget. That, happy to answer questions.
Questions for Ashley?
Chair, there's just one comment from Assistant County Manager.
Yeah,
Thank you. I would just mention in response to earlier public comment that on page 135 of the CIP is the project titled New Sheriff's Office Land Acquisition and Renovation, which includes the description of the project includes the building and the renovation of the building. So I'm sure that was just missed in
Interesting.
700 pages.
I appreciate that. Page 135, for the record.
For the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I move to pass a resolution adopting the 2025 to 2030 Capital Improvement Program.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the capital improvement program. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next up is 6B. TIP.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Matt Unsplin, Thurston County Engineer. Public Works is requesting permission from the, well, we're not requesting permission. We're requesting the Board of County Commissioners approve a resolution for the 2025 to 2030 Transportation Improvement Program. Per state law, the Board of County Commissioners is required to adopt a 6-year transportation improvement program each year prior to setting the budget. Once adopted, the TIP satisfies the legislative requirements for the transportation growth management and for the distribution of state and federal dollars. Public Works has briefed the board on the TIP on July 31st. Public hearing was held on October 15th, and the budget public hearing was subsequently on December 2nd.
Questions for Matt? Ask for motion.
I move to approve resolution to adopt the 2025 to 2030 Transportation Improvement Plan.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the transportation improvement plan. Any discussion on motion?
I want to say thank you to Matt and Public Works staff. I always like to take the opportunity to acknowledge all of the hard work that our Public Works team does. I've learned so much this year in my first year as commissioner about how you manage so many different components of infrastructure around the county. And so I just wanted to say thank you very much, and I'm excited to move this resolution forward.
Thank you.
Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Matt. Next up is indirect cost plan, item C.
Hi, good afternoon. Summer Miller again. Before you is a resolution adopting the Thurston County 2025 Indirect Cost Allocation Plan. The cost plan has been used since 1989. It is updated annually to reflect costs paid from the general fund that provides support for countywide programs to all funds and agencies such as HR, the prosecutor's office, the treasurer, the auditor, and financial services, etc. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
I will say that the cost plan, when I was new to the board, it's a fairly complex, inscrutable concept but we have an excellent work session every year, and each year I get a better handle on it. And if folks are interested in it, reach out to us and we can direct you toward the work session where we go into detail about the background and the theory and how it's calculated. It's pretty interesting stuff.
Chair, I'd just add, and I appreciate that point, that leading up to the actual adoption of the budget, there is a amazing amount of work that all our departments do, our auditor's office, our budget team, assistant county manager staff, and working these documents. And like you said, we have multiple work sessions, budget sessions where Summer has been bringing these items forward to go over in detail and review. And we're also sending information out to commissioners in emails for your review, answering questions. So I want to just thank the team for all their hard work as represented the tip of the iceberg in some of these motions.
Absolutely. Ready for a motion?
I move to approve the resolution to adopt the 2025 indirect cost allocation plan.
Second. Motion and second to adopt the indirect cost allocation plan. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item D.
Yes, the next item is a resolution establishing the 2025 equipment rental rates. This is a resolution establishing the equipment rental rates for equipment owned by the Equipment Rental and Revolving Fund for 2025. This county-wide equipment rental program was established by Resolution 6087 in December of 1978, and it was amended in April 2004 by Resolution 13158. These rates have been determined by the Director of Central Services, and they've been certified by the county engineer as an appropriate use of county funds, county road funds. Thank you.
Questions for Summer? Hearing none, I'm ready for a motion.
Move to approve the resolution to adopt the 2025 equipment rental rates for equipment rental and revolving. Attachment A, 2025 maintenance and operation and replacement rates. Attachment B, 2025 equipment list. Attachment C, equipment hourly rate. And attachment D, county engineer, ER&R and M&O rates certification memo.
Second. Motion and second to approve the resolution establishing equipment rental rates. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Perfect. I'm going to hand the next three items over to Tara and HR.
E, F, and G. E is resolution for 2025 salaries for non-represented employees.
Thank you. So this resolution sets the 2025 salaries for non-represented employees. It represents a 3% cost of living increase and affects employees that are considered non-union, those in the management and technical pay plan, those that are at will, our non-union civil deputy prosecuting attorneys, our defense attorneys, as well as our official court reporters. Are there any questions?
Questions for Tara? Yeah. Commissioner
You know,
Evans?
I don't have any questions, but I think sometimes when we have citizens in the audience might wonder, what are we, just rubber stamp and everything? That comes up. And I would like to point out that over the past year, we have had a lot of information that's flown through many meetings by Tara and Ashley, the whole summer, the whole crew. Robin has been fighting this battle with us for years. So we spend a lot of time in a lot of meetings going over many of these items. And so finally, it's a finished product when we get here. And that's why we aren't asking a lot of questions. So just like to point that out.
I appreciate that you say that just about every meeting, because it's true.
It is true.
And like you forget, like there's the right now and then there's the 6-month perspective, and you kind of have to be tracking for 6 months to figure anything that's going on. But then you have to remember that some people are only here for the day, and it's true. And every one of these subjects, there's been, dozens and dozens of touch points with the public to be able to weigh in for us to consider their comments. So you say it every time. I hope that maybe Commissioner-elect Grant can be the person that says that, because I don't want to be saying that at every meeting, but I think somebody needs to. Maybe we can put a plaque behind us, yeah. Or have a button we push and it speaks your words or something.
I remember coming to a county commissioners meeting in maybe 2015, sitting in the back thinking, do I want to be a county commissioner? And sitting in the board meeting and just being, what are they doing? What is this? That doesn't like really look like an interesting job. I had to really learn a lot more about what the commissioners do to understand what all goes into those final decisions that happen. So yeah, it's a valid point. Especially on a situation like this where we're dealing with all of these important resolutions regarding the budget. So let's go on to item F.
Okay, so item F is a resolution for changes to position control.
Oh,
An adoptee. No.
For that, I'd like to move to approve the resolution to adopt 2025 non-represented salaries.
Second.
Motion and second to adopt the resolution for non-represented employees. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. We'll go to item F.
Great, thank you. So the next item is the resolution for changes to the 2025 position control schedule. These are all changes to positions and FTEs that came out of the midterm budget process. It involves the creation of two IT positions, one that will be primarily housed in the sheriff's office. The other is primarily housed in public defense. It extends the end date for two positions, one in the clerk's office and one in the commissioner's office. And it removes the end date on the last FTE, which is a position in IT primarily assigned to the TC Connect project right now.
Questions for Tara on item F? Is there a motion?
I move to approve the resolution to adopt changes to the 2025 position control schedule.
Second.
Motion and second to adopt the resolution for changes to the position control schedule. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries unanimously. Item G.
Okay, and the final resolution that I am bringing before you is the resolution to set the 2025 salaries for elected officials. This sets the salaries for the assessor, the auditor, the clerk, the coroner, the sheriff, the treasurer, and the prosecuting attorney for 2025. And I believe that this was based on the Salary Commission's recommendations.
Okay. If there's no questions, I'll have a motion.
I move to approve the resolution setting the 2025 salaries for the assessor, auditor, clerk, coroner, prosecuting attorney, sheriff, and treasurer.
Motion and second to approve the resolution setting salaries for these elected officials, non-commissioner elected officials. Any discussion on the motion?
I do have some points to make. I remember last year when I took my seat in November, it was a little bit unexpected. We all thought I was going to be sworn in with Commissioner Fournier in the new year. But I was sitting here last year for this same discussion about salaries for elected officials. And I just wanted to make some comments after a year of reflection. And I want to, kind of say, like, as we consider these proposed salary increases for elected officials, I really believe that our decisions must align with the values and the priorities of our Thurston County residents. This year's recommendation for salaries for elected officials calls for a 6% increase, while our county staff, who keep our systems functioning every day, are only slated to receive a 3% cost of living adjustment. This disparity raises critical questions for me about equity, fiscal responsibility, and who we value in our community. The reality is many working families in Thurston County are struggling to keep up with the rising costs, including housing, food, and essential needs. The median household income in our county continues to hover around $80,000. And what I thought was interesting was when I looked at the Thurston Regional Planning Council website, it talks about when we adjust for inflation, Thurston County's median household income has actually been decreasing since 2020. And the 2023 median income is 2.5% lower than the 2020 estimate of $93,000. So I know that's a lot of details, and I say all of that to basically say it's difficult for me to be able to justify raises of this magnitude when so many of our community members are seeing little to no financial relief. We also continue to navigate as a county inflation, a structural deficit in our budget, and the need to balance our budget to prioritize core services and our community investments. So I understand the rationale behind this proposal and the process of the salary commission, which is something that we've talked about as a board throughout the year to see if there's a way to improve that process, but it's really complex. So I remain firm in my position that any salary increases for elected officials should not exceed the cost of living adjustment provided to our county staff. That's all.
Any other discussion?
I'll just add that it was my recommendation to, the recommendation from the Salary Commission was a little bit higher. And it was my recommendation to align it with the commissioner's salary. County commissioners do not get to vote on their own salary. And so for me, it was important that we aligned all of those together, and seeing that we didn't get to vote on our own, that all the other elected officials were also aligned with that. I believe the only one who was technically not aligned is the prosecutor, because they follow the Superior Court judge's schedule, which is a little bit different.
I appreciate that. I think the context of these decisions is important, and you can't have the discussion about how we get to the decisions we've made without the context. And so it's important to understand that we have a salary commission that is set up so that we have a fair and external board that can advise us on what the salaries should be, because we shouldn't be setting those ourselves. And once we've set that up by law, which we've done, this county has done, the county commissioners have no choice in the salary that is put out before them. So we've got this board that sits externally and decides, looking at a whole bunch of different things. And one of those is, what do other people in this same position throughout the state make? Because these jobs are jobs, and they also have to be competitive. And so the external third-party salary commission makes a decision, and the only decision that we get to make is whether or not we accept the recommendation of the elected officials that aren't us. And so those also have to remain competitive, and they we have to consider issues of wage compression. So, we can't have, the auditor making a whole bunch less than her deputy. And so we have to consider these things. So, looking at it through a number of different lenses is important, and context is important. And the recommendation that came to us from the Salary Commission, it was higher. And we did make the difficult decision to decrease the amount that we're recommending, that we're approving. It's in the motion before us. So what was given to us by the Salary Commission was higher than we're approving today. So that I think that context is important, and I appreciate Commissioner Mejia mentioning that.
I would add to the context that I was going to say pretty much what Commissioner Mejia said, but in addition, the Salary Commission is there to create to look at the market for the electeds that don't have any other way for that to be done. The commissioned and spent a considerable amount of money on a countywide comp and class study. And while there was, differences of opinion about that study, we took each class that was more than whatever the threshold was out of market and brought all of them within market range, which is exactly the same process that the Salary Commission is doing for the elected. So we're trying to create a consistent approach through these, there's these alternative mechanisms that we have to use. But I do think that the same approach is trying to be, it's an effort on our behalf with the tools and the constraints of the various tools to be consistent. And again, like Commissioner Fournier said, we can't control our salary, but we aligned everyone else's with that, even though there were higher recommendations from the Salary Commission.
Chair,
for these reasons.
If I may add, this is a pretty complex conversation because there's a lot of different nuances, but in addition to the cost of living that are negotiated for employees, there's also merit increases on top of that for a lot of the different groups. And also them moving up in a pay range that's been pre-described as part of their position and what HR has worked out. So they could be seeing that 3% plus the step increase or merit increase in addition.
Doesn't apply to elected officials.
It doesn't apply to elected officials. Yeah. So yeah.
Context is important, and oversimplification and kind of of an analysis doesn't really, I don't think serve the argument.
Commissioner Edwards.
I mean,
You had to get the last
I
word on
might
this
as well
one.
get the last word in.
Absolutely.
I'd just like to point out that as we struggle with these issues, if you look back a few years, there were also times when we were able to successfully not have any raises for these officials. So they fell behind during those periods. And so this also is an attempt to make up some of that. Trying to keep it fair.
Okay, so with that, all that discussion's good, all good context across the board, so I appreciate that from commissioners. What, do we have a motion on this item?
I think I already made the motion.
Oh, this is discussion. We have a motion and a second, so I just need to call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
And one abstention, that motion carries.
Thank you, Tara, for pinch hitting for Maria while she's out. You did a great job.
Thank you. Yes, back to you, Summer, for item H.
Thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a resolution before you adopting the 2024-2025 biennium operating budget midterm adjustments to include the general fund, the road fund, and all other county funds. On December 2nd, 2024, the Board of Thurston County Commissioners held public hearings to receive public comments. Deliberations were concluded on December 4th of 2024 in preparation of adopting the 2024-2025 operating budget. The 2025 total operating budget is $505,880,436. The 2025 operating revenue is estimated at $669,385,392. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Item H regarding the operating budget. Nope, call for the, I'm sorry, motion.
Move to approve the resolution to adopt the 2024-2025 midterm operating budget.
Second?
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes, I would like to take a moment and thank Summer, thank all the budget team for all of their hard work. I know it was such a difficult year with TC Connect and trying to balance that huge system upgrade and trying to get out a budget on time. And you all have done just incredible work. So I just wanted to give props to all of you and all of your hard work. I know Jennifer, Dolly, and Tiff have been working after hours along with you, Summer. So thank you very much. And I know Robin tried to pass as much information on to you before she left. So just thank you.
Thank you. And if I may also say, the budget team is amazing. All three of them. Robin has been wonderful, and Leonard has really provided us a lot of grace and wonderful leadership to help us get through this time. So thank you for the acknowledgement.
County manager at a recent, I think it was new employee orientation, basically laid out kind of like literally 3 different crises that I think would have made anybody in your position run out the door or, you know, I mean, it was just like you've navigated like multiple cross-cutting crises as you try to address, you know, from some erroneous information to a changeover of budget director leadership to TC Connect problem. I mean, so to get where we are, I echo what Commissioner Mejia and the county manager and others have said about what you brought to this process this year. Appreciate it. Okay. I had a motion and a second, so that's just any more discussion?
I would just like to echo it. I don't want to, prolong this discussion, but I do think like the acknowledgement for our budget staff. I honestly would like to give a round of applause because of all the hard work that they've done and all the information Robin has passed down and the hard work that Leonard has done to kind of bring all these pieces together during a really difficult year. So I will start clapping, and if you'd like to clap, you can as well. And you've also taken a lot of time with individual commissioners, with staff to brief us on all of the complexities of the budget. And I really, really appreciate that because it's been hard for me to wrap my mind around it. So I just want to say thank you, especially to you, Summer, for all your time.
No further discussion. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have an operating budget. Let's go to item I, capital budget.
So before you is a resolution adopting the 2024-2025 biennium capital budget midterm adjustments to include the road fund and all other county funds. Again, on December 2nd, 2024, the Board of Thurston County Commissioners held public hearings to receive public comments. Deliberations were concluded on December 4th, 2024, in preparation of adopting the 2024-2025 biennium capital budget. The 2025 total capital budget is $160,311,915. 2025 total capital revenue is estimated at $102,884,575. We had a great deal of conversation about that during the reviews.
All right. Any other questions for Summer? Is there a motion?
I move to approve the resolution to adopt the 2024-2025 midterm capital budget, including Attachment A, capital budget and FTEs by department, and Attachment B, capital project summary by department, fund, and project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second to approve the midterm capital budget. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. On to J. 4 to go.
Okay, thank you. So before you is a resolution authorizing an increase in property tax revenue in both dollars and percentage for the current expense fund, roads, and conservation futures fund up to 1% as authorized by RCW 845510, and up to 7% as authorized by the voters for the Medic One Fund in August 2021. Total general fund property tax levy in 2025 is $53 million estimated. And that is all I have on this one. Unless you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Property tax levy. Any questions?
I guess I just look to Robin because she usually knows this off the top of her head. But, you know, we often get criticized about property tax and how much it's costing out there on our homes and whatnot. Robin, what does that 1% actually mean to Thurston County?
It's about $450,000.
Yeah, so you've
not
everybody's
very
heard
much.
about the millions, 500 million, 600 million, crazy millions. And this is about $500,000. So I just like to put that in context once in a while.
No,
It gives you a headache if you think about it very much.
This is another topic where I would encourage the public, if they're interested in it, to go to our work session where we go through the calculation because it's quite detailed. And I think Washington's like fairly unusual, like unique in how it calculates all of this and sets levy limits. So with that, is there a motion?
I move to approve the resolution authorizing an increase in property tax revenue in both dollars and percentage for the roads, conservation futures, and Medic One funds as authorized by RCW 84.55.010.
Second.
Motion and second to approve a resolution regarding property tax levy increase for the different funds. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're up to item K.
So the next item I'm going to pass to Tim Wilson, the Water Resources Manager with Public Works, and I'll take a small break.
All right, thanks, Summer.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Tim Wilson, Water Resources Manager with Public Works. This item is a resolution amending general facility charges for the consolidated water and sewer utilities and follows a public hearing held on December 2nd, as well as a significant outreach effort. The adjustments were proposed by FCS Group Incorporated, and the board was briefed on the proposal earlier this year. The adjustments come with the support of the Consolidated Utility Advisory Committee, who represent all of our utility service areas. And with that background, I would answer any questions the board may have.
Questions for Tim?
I don't think I have any questions, but I do have a comment that we're not in the sewer and water business, but sometimes we find ourselves for different reasons in that business. And I want to compliment Tim for putting this whole thing together. He put a lot of work into this. So kind of a unsung hero for fixing a lot of our communities that that would have suffered severely had not this been able to be put together the way it was.
And I would add to that, that those communities, I think, are in a good position. A lot of that comes from the federal relief money that the county, some of it was earmarked for infrastructure, and the county had these infrastructure projects that I think frankly, we weren't sure how we were gonna get them done. But because of that money from the federal government, we were able to directly put them to these critical needs on these systems that needed upgrades. And so now, and then do a consolidation, and like the whole system, I think, is much more situated for the future. So I echo what Commissioner Edwards said. Tim's led the way through all of that, so thank you, Tim. And Public Works as well. Okay, any other, is there a motion now?
I move to approve a resolution adjusting Thurston County water and sewer general facility charges.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the resolution regarding general facilities charges. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item L, resolution creating Fund 2350-2024 GO Bond Fund.
Okay, so before you is a resolution authorizing the creation of a debt payment fund for the purpose of paying principal and interest on the 2024 limited tax general obligation bonds. It will be Fund 2050 GO Bond 2024. The Board of County Commissioners adopted Resolution 16366 on February the 20th of 2024 regarding the issuance of bonds. The fund is a restricted debt service fund for the sole purpose of paying principal and interest on the 2024 general obligation bonds. The source of revenues will be public safety sales, public safety law and justice. Operating transfers will be made when payments are due. Interest earned is restricted to this fund and may not be deposited into the general fund. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions on this item?
I guess I would just mention that the citizens of this county put this together, made this happen for us. So, thank you to the citizens out there that voted for this. And Summer's hard work.
I think it was Robin.
Ready for a motion?
I move to approve the resolution creating Fund 2350, the new general obligation bond fund.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the resolution creating the bond fund. Any discussion?
I do have a comment to make about these last two items related to the bonds. I reluctantly am going to abstain from these two bond votes only because it's so much information to digest, and being here for only a year, I've had the opportunity to learn about a lot of things, but this one has been the most complicated for me. And I'm not abstaining because I don't support the work of staff or the decision of the community to vote for this public safety sales tax. It's just a matter of wanting to learn more. So I support all the work that staff does. I just don't feel like I can vote on something that I don't fully understand. So I just want to put that out there. And there are work sessions about this where our Assistant County Manager, Robin Campbell, put it up on a whiteboard just recently, and it was very helpful, but there's still so many complexities that I just don't feel comfortable voting on something that's so significant, and I don't understand all the details.
Any other discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
And one abstention. Motion carries. Okay, then that brings us to finally to item M, resolution creating Fund 3250, debt holding fund.
Thank you. So last resolution for me. This is a resolution authorizing the creation of a capital projects fund for the purpose of managing the proceeds from the issuance of the 2024 limited tax general obligation bonds. It's Fund 3250, 2024 debt holding. On February 20th, 2024, the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners adopted Resolution 16366 regarding the issue of bonds. The fund will be utilized to hold the cash deposited from the 2024 bond for the county's acquisition and remodeling of various county buildings. The source of revenue will be proceeds from the bond issuance. Interest earned from this fund shall be retained in this fund and used for the purpose of the fund, except earnings subject to a federal tax or rebate requirements may be used for the tax or rebate purposes.
Questions on that? Ready for a motion?
I move to approve the resolution creating Fund 3250, the 2024 Debt Holding Fund.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the resolution creating the debt holding fund. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One abstention. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the end of section 6. We'll go to 7, Community Planning and Economic Development, 2024 Comprehensive Plan Amendments. Ashley Arai, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ashley Rye, Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. This item on the agenda is to adopt the 2024 Comprehensive Plan Amendments Package. The Thurston County Comprehensive Plan, including sub-area plans and joint plans, may only be amended once per year. This year's package of amendments reflects years of work on behalf of CPED, the Planning Commission, of which we have 2 here in the audience, as well as the board and the broader community. I do want to share deep gratitude for everyone that has taken the time to engage on these important decisions for the community. This year's package includes 2 officially docketed items that have gone through significant public engagement over the last several years. The first is CPA-7A, the Grand Mound West UGA expansion, land use, and rezone requests for the Black Lake Quarry and Wilmosky sites, and CPA-16, long-term agriculture zoning update. For those that may not have followed along for the last few years on these projects, I just want to provide a little bit more background and context. The agriculture zoning update would resolve a 2020 appeal from FutureWise on soils used for designating agricultural lands of long-term commercial significance. It includes updates to multiple chapters of the Thurston County Comprehensive Plan, including increased opportunities for landowners to voluntarily enroll their land in agriculture zoning. Although these updates result in no changes to the county's existing land use and zoning maps, the board's decision today would create a cornerstone for continued community conversations about farmland conservation. The Grand Mound West proposal includes 2 private applicant-initiated land use rezone and UG amendment requests for the Black Lake Quarry and Wilmosky sites. The Black Lake Quarry request would address needs identified in the county's 2023 industrial land study by amending the land use and zoning of about 66 acres from rural resource residential 1 to 5 to light industrial. The Wilmosky request would address workforce housing shortages identified in the recently completed state-required land capacity analysis and would amend approximately 29 acres from rural resource residential 1.5 to residential 4 to 16 per acre. All these amendments have undergone multi-year community engagement processes, including multiple in-person and online open houses, review with both the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners, site-specific mailings, and properly noticed public hearings with both the Planning Commission and Board. The Agriculture Zoning Project has been under review since 2020, while the Grand Mound Project has been under active review since 2017, first as part of the Grand Mound Sub-Area Plan, then in late 2023 split off as a focused review. As the board knows and has heard today, there has been a lot of interest in the Wilmosky proposal. I would say as CPED director and someone who's very committed to engagement, I think that's a successful culmination of a 7+ year public review process. We have also heard comments from state agencies like the Department of Transportation and Commerce, and although it's not customary for the state to affirm proposals, I do want to share that the CPED team has been actively engaging our agency partners throughout the process to address any questions or concerns they may have. I also want to note that both the Wilmosky and Black Lake Quarry proposals have been conditioned through their environmental review to manage and address future traffic impacts. On a logistical note, locally operated transportation facilities down in Grand Mound. On a logistical note, changes such as this must first be adopted by resolution to amend the comprehensive plan, sub-area plan, and land use maps. And then there is a second action required by the board to implement changes through ordinance for consistency. Happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Edwards, I saw your hand.
You said that this is only allowed once a year, and this is because of state law that only allows once a year. Is that right?
Yes, the RCW 36.70A.130.
Oftentimes, the public really doesn't understand the process that's laid out, and so it's quite cumbersome. And I will say I know part of this that's been going on for 15 years, so it's been taking its toll. Thank you.
Other questions, Commissioner Klaus?
I have a couple questions. First, I want to say thank you for this has been incredible work that staff has done, years and years of work, and I'm coming in and have 1 year to try to learn all of this, this work that's gone on for, I think, over a decade is when the applicant started, thinking about doing this, and it came to the county just a few years ago. There have been some recent changes in state laws that make it a little bit more complex. And I just had a couple questions. One comment you made actually addresses a question that I already had about the Department of Transportation and the Department of Commerce. You mentioned that they gave comment, and the last I saw was a letter saying that they had some concerns. And I know you were out last week, so I didn't get to ask you directly, but you mentioned that they made comments. Was that resolved? Did that conversation come full circle and their concerns, were those addressed?
So we have had follow-up conversations with them and have responded to their questions and concerns to the best of our abilities. And ultimately, it's a board decision. But I can say that we have just completed a study that is required by the state that specifically identifies a need for workforce housing in Grand Mound. And that was not something that the UGM subcommittee would have had access to last year. So the comments about, what the UGM subcommittee looked at last year versus what we have this year.
So were those concerns related to transportation infrastructure, like roads, or?
So that was addressed actually through the environmental review. So in working with the state, we actually scoped out a traffic impact analysis, actually working with the state and our own Public Works Department to address their questions and concerns. And then we followed up with issuing our environmental determination with conditions specifically requiring management of any type of impacts to state-run or local transportation facilities. And that would happen at the time of development, not at the time of changes to the land use map.
Right. Thank you for saying that, because that was one thing I've been trying to figure out, because it's such a complex process. And I was reading about the SEPA process, and I looked at all the background documents, and specifically the Wilmofsky SEPA mitigated determination of non-significance document was really helpful for me to read through, because it explains, it explains as much as possible without it being a project specific request. And so I wanted to highlight that for the community, that there's another layer of this. If the expansion is approved, they will still have to go through and check all of those boxes through additional reviews before they can start developing a project.
That is correct.
And the SEPA review doesn't include a lot of things like surface water. It says not applicable because it's not project specific. And some of these are the concerns we've heard from the community about the environmental elements, which are not required to be filled out in this SEPA review process because it's a non-project specific process, right?
Yes, there's
okay.
There's
and if it was a project specific process, would we receive a SEPA review that reflected those things? Okay.
Yep. If there was a development proposal that gets submitted, more than likely it would also trigger a separate environmental review. And then all of those things, all of those specifics get applied.
Okay. So it would be coming before the board again, or is that a different process that staff handles?
That is one that is administered by Community Planning and Economic Development. So the only way the board would see it is if it gets appealed through our standard review processes. But anything that triggers environmental review also triggers public notice.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that requires a hearing examiner review also triggers a public hearing.
Okay. I noticed in the SEPA packet that the question about listing threatened and endangered species known to be on or near the site, it does list our favorite pocket gopher. Does that mean there will have to be additional reviews to see if that land is buildable because there's potentially pocket gophers, or what is the process for that?
Yeah, our county is really unique in that we've adopted a habitat conservation plan that balances impacts to those habitats of endangered species with development. And so through the habitat conservation program, any future development would have to pay mitigation fees. Those mitigation fees would then go toward conserving habitat for those endangered species. And in this particular area, which is Yelm Pocket Gopher South, we are years ahead of what the required number of acres of conservation habitat that's required under our habitat conservation program.
Perfect, thank you. I think I only have one more question, which is about the critical aquifer recharge areas. Does this property lie within a designated critical aquifer recharge area?
It does, and there are special provisions written into the development code for all of the zoning districts in Grand Mound that speak to restrictions related to critical aquifer recharge areas.
Yeah, it's kind of a tongue twister. I did look at the RCW, which I'll say it for the public, it's kind of a long one, 36.70A.110.8D, which talks about any revised UGA must not result in a net increase of critical aquifer recharge areas. And I just wanted to get clarification on how this proposal aligns with that statutory requirement.
If I'm tracking that one correctly, and I don't have the RCWs in front of me, are you referring to the new UGA swap laws?
I have the RCW here, but I don't have the actual full document. But I know that the point I pulled from it was that any revised UGA must not result in a net increase of critical aquifer areas. And I'm not sure if that's something that would be analyzed, if that's something that's already been analyzed by staff, or does that come next with the project component, or when is that part?
So that new legislation only applies to UGA swaps. So those are the countywide planning policy updates that the board is considering in the new year. This falls under a UGA amendment. The countywide planning policies already exist for UGA amendments that are focused on expansion rather than putting land in and taking land out. So it wouldn't be applicable.
Okay. That is the one that kind of confused me the most. The aquifer recharge areas. Commissioner Mincy, you mentioned that you had wondered about that too. Do you feel like that's been resolved? Because I just feel like it's a little bit of a gray area, and I'm just concerned about approving something that might conflict with that RCW. But I'm gonna check.
I'm not aware of it. I mean, I wasn't aware of a statutory conflict that I felt I needed to resolve. So I kind of rely on staff to flag those, and if I hear about it from an external place, but I have not. So I'm not aware of an issue there.
And because of another docketed project, we are following along with all of the rulemaking relating to that new state legislation. But this would not be subject to those new regulations that is specifically looking at revisions where you are swapping land in and out of a UGA rather than an expansion of the UGA. And there are existing countywide planning policies for that, which is what the UGM subcommittee would have looked at.
There's been a lot of public interest, obviously, at the tail end of this process, and I have some comments. I've already made some comments. I think I'll save them for discussion on a particular motion. I know we have two motions that we need that kind of are both required to get to the end goal. So we can do one motion, discuss there, and then do the second one if that's the board's purview. But so it's kind of up to the board where they want to put in any additional comment. But I guess at this juncture, if there's no other questions for Ashley, I'll call for a motion if there is one.
I want to thank Ashley and the CPED team for all the work they've done and all the questions you've answered over the year on this, because this has been something that's been worked heavily on. So I'll make a motion to approve a resolution to amend the Thurston County Comp Plan, Grand Mound Sub-Area Plan, future land use maps, and urban growth area boundary for the Grand Mound UGA.
Second.
Okay, a motion and second to approve the resolution to amend these various plans and maps and urban growth area boundaries. Discussion on that motion. Commissioner Mejia?
Thank you. I really want to thank, community members coming forward and providing comment. It is always appreciated when there is engagement. I will add, though, that this has been a long time it's been worked on. It's been a long public process as well. I attended the open houses that some of the open houses that were held last year in regards to this. And there were other areas being considered at that time as well, but they were all packaged together at one point, and then they got separated. That's how long this process has been. I know it's been a frequent reminder in my 4 years in office. The fact of the matter is that we really need housing. We need all types of housing. We've heard from other community members who, were for the proposal as well that, housing is needed. We've heard from the tribe that housing is needed. And we are in a housing crisis, and we really need that ability to sustain and grow our local economy. So with that, I just want to thank Ashley for all of her hard work and engagement that she's done throughout this really long process.
Echo that. I want to thank Ashley and CPED. There's a lot of things packaged in here that were hot and heavy from the beginning of the year. So this is a nice kind of culmination of everything. The work you've done on long-term ag zoning. There were a lot of kind of I guess kind of upset parties. There were a lot of different voices at the beginning of the year that were concerned with being forced into some of these zones, and so the voluntary program really seems forward thinking and working with the community. The Black Lake Quarry 66 acres, us considering this, and what we have is now just ponds that no one can ever access, and the need for industrial lands, the need to allow for economic development. I think it's forward thinking to allow the possibility of that being industrial instead of just brownfield sites forever that can't be used. That does not make sense to me. There's some concern about additional housing and lack of things like sidewalks and parks. And I would say that those are the things that come with any proposed development. We don't have necessarily a proposed development yet, but when that happens, that's when the infrastructure comes. The infrastructure doesn't, it's a chicken or egg argument. The infrastructure doesn't magically appear. The developers, we require them to do those things that the people are saying that we don't have down here. So, some of these, these possibilities are exciting, and we have a need for housing in Thurston County for working families, for young families. I want a place for, my kids and grandkids to be able to purchase a house. And if we don't allow housing, that's never going to happen. So I appreciate this work, and thank you, Ashley and CPED and Josh, your predecessor.
Put on the line. I would, at the work session, I laid out a whole range of arguments that I felt caused me to support this. I'm not going to repeat all of those, but I will supplement them with a few additional points. There's very little high-density residential zoning in Grand Mountain, and the board actually switched some of that out last year by property owner request. We shot down other Grand Mountain proposals last year, so this isn't just you walk into Thurston County and the board does what a bunch of property owners asked them to do. We were very deliberate about evaluating each and every project, several of which got shot down. Other ones were a split vote as to whether they were to proceed. And these two that we're working on today seemed like the best of what we call the external proposals. The best, meeting a need, being appropriate on a lot of different criteria. So I just wanted to say that because that's context that the public just checking in may not have. I was already familiar with the property, but just since folks said, I want you to drive around the property, I drove around the entirety of the property. I walked it along the external couple of sides just to kind of get a feel for what's around it. It's a walking distance to the commercial core of Grand Mountain. So I think it's an appropriate place for what is being suggested and as a zoning. The number one, we heard a lot, I don't want to denigrate the range of, because we heard a wide range of opinions, but definitely, if you were tallying them up, traffic was the number one thing we heard. And that's based on some new infrastructure improvements that the county's invested in. It should be addressed, but it's going to be addressed, as Commissioner Fournier said. I mean, we're going to have processes in place that will address those. Studies have to be done. Infrastructure improvements can be required of developers. If concurrency studies, all these things, I didn't even know what that meant before I was a commissioner. There's a whole scheme in place to make sure that infrastructure comes with development. So it really boils down to what I would say is the second most common comment that I heard from the public, which was they just really didn't want the rural character of Grand Mound to change. They just didn't, they moved to a place thinking it was farming area, and now it's becoming more commercial. And there really isn't anything I can say to that, because we only have the growth management, Thurston County is growing, and we only have one area in the entirety of the rural county where the county commissioners can permit, we work with our cities on the urban growth areas that connect to the cities. This is the only area where the commissioners control economic development and growth within the rural area, with staying in conformance with the Growth Management Act. So Grand Mound is going to grow. That's the vision for Grand Mound. We have a sub-area plan working on the elements of that. So, I feel for the residents that made investments thinking that, nothing would ever change. But when you purchase land within a urban growth area boundary, it's going to densify. It's going to potentially become a municipality. I live in an urban growth area for Olympia, and I'm not in the city, but I know that I may someday be. So all of that, and there is, you mentioned the new study supporting the need for housing. There's been newspaper articles about some of the new information that goes beyond, deeper than what the TRPC studies that we used to rely on. If that's all you've got, you go with that. But we knew Grand Mound better than just having a chart saying there's this many acres of residential, and there's this many acres of commercial, and here's the population projection. You're good. If you know Grand Mound and how it's situated, a deeper analysis was warranted, and we went to that level to try to make a good decision. So I would say with all of that, in addition to the things I mentioned at the last meeting, I think that these are good proposals for Grand Mound, and I'm hopeful that we can create those kind of amenities that the community members really want. I want to see parks, placemaking. I've had multiple meetings with community members there who live there, longtime residents, talking about what processes we've had. Commissioners, my seatmates have gone to efforts to try to work with CPED staff on how do we work that vision towards something that's more of a community feel as we grow that area. So I think all those things are coming. Those are my comments for today. Anybody else?
I want to say thank you to all three of the commissioners, my seatmates, who have made comments. This is a huge package. It's not one decision on one piece of property. This includes long-term ag. It resolves the future-wise appeal related to the long-term ag component. And I agree with Commissioner Fournier that the voluntary component allows for more community engagement and choice. And there's a level of transparency there that I appreciate. I really do support the changes in the long-term ag piece of this. I also agree, I'm coming into this after this vision for Grand Mound has already been developed and realized, and I agree with the vision of Grand Mound growing. There's no arguing that that's the place where we need to grow. My concerns lie with some of these specific statutes that call out environmental concerns, and the aquifer recharge area is still a gray area for me. I read the statute and it doesn't say anything about swaps, so maybe that's something I can follow up with staff on. But there are, a few gray areas for me on that one component. I know we need housing. We definitely need industrial, the industrial area. I support the Black Lake Quarry proposal because, like Commissioner Fournier said, that's land that if we don't do something with it now, it's just going to sit there and we can't use it for anything. I just have some question marks related to the expansion of the Wilmofsky proposal. And I don't want to turn it down necessarily. I just feel like I need more information to really feel like it meets the statutory requirements that I've asked about. I also want to say, none of this has anything to do with shortfalls of staff. Staff have gone above and beyond to help me understand the complexities of this, but there are still some questions that I have that haven't been answered. So I support the long-term ag and the Black Lake Quarry decisions, and I understand that the staff have developed another resolution just in case that takes out the one proposal related to the expansion on the Womofsky property. I'd be interested in deferring that component to next year to allow for additional conversations since we've had changes in the statutory requirements. And there's just still some questions that I have. So I know this is a once a year decision, but staff have been kind of aware that there are still questions that need to be answered. So I'm hoping that the board could potentially consider deferring that one component of this package to next year.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and it's related to the entire package in its entirety. So I'm going to call for a vote on that motion because I think we've had discussion. So all in favor of the motion, which is the complete package involving the three separate items, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
One opposed. Okay. That motion carries, and we have a second piece of this same item.
I move to approve an ordinance to implement the changes in the resolution by amending the official zoning map of Thurston County, Washington.
Second.
Motion and second. The discussion has been covered. Is there any further comments? I'll call for the vote on the second piece of this. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Nay?
I'm inclined to say to vote yes on this only because through this democratic process, we've approved the first component.
Okay.
So if we're gonna adopt an ordinance, I don't want to vote against the board's decision. So I'll vote yes on that.
Okay, so that motion, second piece of it is approved 5-0. And so that motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
I do want to point out, there's a whole team behind me, so although I
Yeah.
appreciate all
Please
the things,
give
I want to
them thanks.
extend
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
We're aware. Thank you so much, Ashley. All right, we've got just a few items to resolve here. Item 8A is a prosecuting attorney's item. I know Mr. Graham's been waiting patiently, so thank you for your patience. Come on up. It's a special meeting here the last one of the year. It always
I
is.
appreciate the opportunity to speak with the board and want to make my official personal introductions to both Commissioner Fournier and Commissioner Klaus. It's nice to finally meet you in person. The other three I've worked with for quite a while. This is our request. We had a $100,000 ARPA grant that was granted during the American Rescue Plan Act. So it was federal money that we had an opportunity to develop some prosecutor-led diversion programs. And what's interesting, the board has made a number of comments on how much work goes into it before maybe the community finds out. And that's what I want to make sure this board knows, but the community that's listening as well. Our office is always exploring different opportunities to keep people not only out of the criminal justice system in the courtroom, but maybe out of the criminal justice system in its entirety, while we're still balancing, obviously, public safety and accountability. There's lots of different ways, I think, to accomplish that. And this allows us to explore as an office at least an opportunity to maybe come back next year or in 2 years to the board and present the benefits that the programs have allowed us to realize and hopefully save money. That's really the goal of both of these programs in the long term. I appreciate the board already approving the $50,000 allotment to community youth services so we can focus some of our efforts on the 18 to 24-year-old population in our community. They have very different needs oftentimes than adults, and I say that in the big context. And this would allow us on this particular program to extend a contract with Friendship Diversion Program. We've had a long-standing relationship with Friendship, but we do have diversion opportunities in Thurston County that are supplemented by our local tax structure. They have requirements. The CJTA Act requires our office actually charge somebody. The treatment sales tax and our pretrial service diversion program require people to either have a substance use or a mental health diagnosis. Well, what if you don't have those things? Then there's no option for you other than to pay for your services. The Friendship model is a nonprofit, but it is a pay-for-services model. This would allow us to explore an opportunity of showing the board what kind of benefits for the criminal justice system as a whole that we could get by having some funding mechanisms so those people don't have to pay for those services. Friendship still receives the money that they need to keep their doors open, but we don't do it at cost to the offender. And this would allow us to extend that contract. The contract was signed for last year. I think everybody on this board and hopefully the community knows all of the county agencies, to include the prosecutor's office, has been stretched very, very thin. Not from just a workload standpoint, but from people leaving the office. John Thunheim, who's the elect, who I think is speaking in the building today, has tried cutting me loose a little bit to work on what we call our innovative justice programs outside the courtroom. But our office's requirements have required me to be in the courtroom far more, I think, than he anticipated. We hope to have that change here at the beginning of the year, where I'll be able to devote a little bit more time and energy to developing these programs, and there's just no other way to put it. The contract was signed last year, and we just did not have the resources internally to do what we need to do on our end to get those people out of the system and over to Friendship, and we hope to change that. So this is just an opportunity to hopefully continue that contract that was previously assigned, but actually implement it, get it moving. And then again, our hope is to come back before the board and show you the benefits of both of those programs here in the future. I will take the opportunity to personally thank both Summer and Amy. They've been instrumental in helping me navigate this process. And you know what, Commissioner Edwards, I've just got to say thanks. I've worked with you for 25 years, both as a sheriff and as a commissioner, and you've served the county well, sir. And I just want to say thank you. And Robin, I want to say the same. We've always appreciated the points you bring up, and hopefully we can satisfy them from our office's standpoint. I want to make sure that I wish you the best as well. So I hope if the board has any questions of me, I am here. And if anybody has any questions of me, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have one question. Thank you for your comments.
Always good.
And your hard work. But can you hang around while we finish a couple other issues? I have another topic I wanted to bring up.
I will be at your pleasure, sir.
Thank you.
Wayne, I understood kind of how you described this as like, this piece is like filling in gaps where we have these specialized diversion programs, but that come with funding streams and things, but we want to make sure that no appropriate case gets left behind for diversion. If that's the right approach, we want to make sure we have a way to put that case on the track that it belongs.
Yep, twofold there, Commissioner, is one, there shouldn't be a sense of opportunity of resolution for people that have money and people that don't. That's what we're really trying to erase. And at the same time, we're trying to develop, in essence, a pre-charge diversion program so they don't even end up with a charged case on their criminal record. Even if we don't go forward, everybody here knows if somebody looks you up and you were charged with assault for something and no resolution, that's still there. And we're looking at maybe even ways of avoiding that. That's the next goal of both of these programs, is to see what we can do to keep people out of the courtroom in its entirety, to mean we don't even file charges. But that'll be kind of phase 2. But it definitely is trying to take advantage of some of those disparities, or like you said, fill in the gaps of the disparities.
I just want to say, this is amazing. It makes me so happy to see this on our agenda and to see us moving forward with this. I've personally seen the impacts of the diversion program of Community Youth Services. I was a volunteer on their Community Accountability Board for, I don't even know how many years, until it was moved over to the prosecutor's office. It was probably about 5 or 6 years. I volunteered for CYS on that, and I've personally seen the impact it has on families and on youth. To hear from the community, just learning. I had a parent one time tell me, I never understood my teenager's brain development and why they're acting this way, and you were able to educate me on why, this person's life development, why my child is acting this way in a way I've never understood. And that to me is really impactful, because these services not only keep people out of the system, but they also improve family units and community and preserving. We always want to keep families together, and in cases where youth are struggling to do that, it's really sad to see how many youth end up on the streets because of situations like this that aren't resolved properly. So for us to be able to step in and make that kind of a difference is huge, and it's going to prevent other issues down the road. So thank you so much, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the updates once this is implemented to see how it's going.
And Commissioner, I appreciate those comments, and I want to make sure, though, the Superior Court took the juvenile diversion programs back, not the prosecutor's office, and I'll be candid. we're trying to get some of it back because Community Youth Service, I think, did a wonderful job. You were part of that. And that restorative justice component is also another program that I'm working on, trying to infiltrate that kind of a mediated dialogue in a number of our other programs to include some of these diversion opportunities. So that's something we're going to continue to try and develop as well. And anybody that's had kids, if they do something wrong, they're asked, and I say kids, even young adults, what were you thinking? And the response is always, I don't know.
Right.
And that's the whole point. They don't know yet. And so there's a chance of addressing that behavior, taking that age into account.
Right. And I can see your enthusiasm, which is like, that gets me excited to know that you have so much passion, because that's the kind of person we need doing this work. And I can tell that you're really going to make a difference. So thank you.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
All right, ready for a motion?
Sure. Move to approve amendment number 1 to the contract with Friendship Diversion Services to extend the end date to December 31st, 2026, and authorize the prosecuting attorney or designee to execute the amendment and any future amendment that does not exceed 10%.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the contract amendment with Friendship Diversion Services. Any discussion on that? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Okay, 2 last items. Item 9A, 2025 Chair of the Board. I think we know what this is about. Is there a motion?
I move to select Commissioner Ty Mincer as Chair of the Board for 2025.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
I think that you've done a good job over the last year, and I appreciate your activities as Chair.
Thank you, sir. All right, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 2025 Vice Chair of the Board. Do we have a motion there?
I move to select Commissioner Fournier as the Vice Chair of the Board for 2025.
Second.
Motion and second to select Commissioner Fournier. A discussion on that motion?
I would like to say, I know it's on the agenda that there's also a motion to select myself as Vice Chair, and I'd like to withdraw that nomination and move forward with selecting Commissioner Fournier as the Vice Chair.
Very good. Should be easy then. Let's call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we've got officers.
For better or worse.
Yeah, one more year. All right, so that brings us to Commissioner reports. We have about 7 minutes before we're going to start celebrating Commissioner Edwards and his assistants. So let's keep them brief, but does anybody have reports they'd like to give? Start with Commissioner Mejia.
Thank you. I would just like to let the board know that I am, starting in 2025, I have been appointed by the WASAC president to be the co-chair for the Legislative Steering Committee. So I will be taking on that role next year. I'm very excited to serve in that capacity. Other than that, I've just been attending several community events, and I'll just leave it at that.
I have no report, but I think that's exciting that Commissioner Mejia is going to be serving in that statewide role, and that's huge for Thurston County, and that's a big feather in Commissioner Mejia's cap.
Awesome. Commissioner Edwards.
I'm not going to give a report, sir, but I am going to recognize Rob Gilder is leaving us, and he's had a heck of a lot of accomplishments while he's been here, the short time that he's been here. And I really do think we owe that gentleman a round of applause. And I might add, he's been president of WASIC in the past as a elected county commissioner.
And legislative co-chair, so be careful.
Yeah.
Big shoes to fill. Can you tell everyone where you're going, or is that top secret? You're like CIA operative? Or?
No, not that top secret, but I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure and an honor to support the board and all the departments and offices of Thurston County for the past almost couple of years. I will been given the opportunity to become the first ever city administrator for the city of Paulsbo, which will afford me the opportunity to reintegrate my life, and I'll be able to go home. And,
He's going to the dark side of the cities.
If I could, just from the county manager's perspective, Rob has been a breath of fresh air for this organization. His customer service, his follow through, his commitment to working sometimes in undefined environments and finding his way through, all the while treating people extremely well. He's going to be missed. I think he has upped Thurston County's game and has done it with a lot of finesse And he also brings wonderful snacks in, all of which we're going to miss. And we will say that, Rob, you will always have friends in Thurston County. And we look forward to sending our appointed department heads up for a visit at Paulsville and you giving us a tour.
As long as he doesn't try to poach them.
I make no promise.
Commissioner Klaus, any community reports?
Not anything too long. I attended a lot of community events and meetings as well. I'm excited that I was reappointed back to my boards and committees, so I'll be able to give more thorough updates on that pretty soon. I also wanted to say I attended WASAC's newly elected officials training with Commissioner-elect Grant, and that training was everything I wish I had a year ago. Talked about the basics of the budget, litigation, liability, you name it, it was there. Like we covered everything. And so I'm just really grateful to have had that opportunity that, you know, they didn't offer that training last year. So I'm really grateful for that. And I hope that it gets, you know, gets us off to a good start in 2025 with me having that fundamental knowledge that is going to be really helpful moving forward.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I don't have anything specific. You know, lots and lots of events going on, meetings from Sentencing Guideline Commission to State Building Code Council to Office of Public Defense Advisory Committee that I'm on. Attended a carbon-friendly forestry conference, which was really interesting. Had stakeholders from forestry industry all the way through to university professors and whatnot, just giving the latest and greatest science on rotations and things that are really relevant to DNR and capital state forest. So yeah, it's been a busy December, and I'm really grateful to the board for all the work we got done this year, and looking forward to 2025. And I think with that, we are adjourned, ready to party.
Thank you, sir.
Please join us for Commissioner Edwards' retirement.